Welcome, everyone. I I want to welcome you to tonight's wine tasting and vineyard tour with Denison alumna Allie Fuleky Ketcham.
Hi there.
Allie was a Denison class of 1997, and we want to thank you all for joining us during this weekend's virtual reunion. So I am Lori Anger. I'm the director for the Office of Alumni and Family Engagement at Denison. Our team is focused on creating memorable and meaningful experiences for all of you. And we think you're going to have a great time tonight. All right, let's get started. Let me introduce our presenter tonight. So Allie Ketcham grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and studied art and literature at Denison. After hiking the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine in 1998, she found herself running away to a boat in Sausalito, California. While working as a nanny in Marin, Allie was introduced to Mark Ketcham. In 2007, Mark and Allie moved to their vineyard property in Healdsburg, California. Together, they created the boutique winery Ketcham Estate with a focus on Russian River Valley Pinot Noir. Sadly, Mark passed away of pulmonary fibrosis in 2020. Today, the winery is proudly woman-owned and operated, and Allie continues to live on the vineyard raising her children, Nick and Savannah, along with Tucker, the Boykin Spaniel. In her spare time, Allie loves exploring the world and swinging her golf clubs. Welcome, Allie. Welcome, Renee. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. What a delight to be here. And thank you all for tuning in. I'm really, really honored. I loved my 4 years at Denison. It was such a special time. And I feel like where you wind up now, it's all a matter of like the relationships that you've had along your way. And it all started at Denison. And I feel like my trail began there. This is my wonderful partner, Renee Graves, who we call her our director of happiness, but she's been with us running our program for over 10 years now, and she's just a wonderful asset to our team. And if you ever need anything wine related, Renee is your gal.
Thank you.
yes. We're zooming in from our vineyard. We have 13 planted acres of Pinot Noir, 5 different clonal types of Pinot, and we can get into that a little bit more later when we're drinking the Pinot. But it is a beautiful home, and I love living here because every day is so different. I just wanted to share with you the grapes and what they're doing right now, because you never know. Like, I was away for the weekend, and overnight they went from like tiny little buds to the clusters that you see here. And can you see those? And like a week ago, they were just minuscule and like this. And then it just grows. Everything grows so fast around here. In a couple of weeks, we'll be going through veraison, where the grapes change colors, and it's just like I growing up in the Midwest, I didn't ever expect I'd be a farmer, but it's a really, really neat place to land.
And then just to add more fun and chaos, so Allie has her 2 children, Savannah and Nick, who are here. Savannah's 13 and Nick's 10. And then we have Tucker, the dog
under the table.
And then Allie was recently acquired 2 new goat kids. For Mother's Day, so they wander around the property, and then along with
all the roses.
And then another new addition is some beehives.
We brought in 500 bees last week, which Renee was our first person to get stung.
Yes,
but
someone had to do it.
But all in the name of good pictures. And
we do, farming wise, we farm sustainably, more or less organically here. We live here, we eat here, our kids play here, so we treat the vineyard and the land just the best we absolutely can. So
we don't use pesticides or Roundup, which is like the evil one. We just try to do everything as naturally as we can. And it's fun bringing the goats in. We brought them in because my dog kept getting in poison oak, and every time we take him for a walk, we'd be covered in welts. So we wanted to get the the poison oak down, but the goats have proved to be just really, really fun little buddies along the vineyard. So who's ready to drink? Yes. Okay. We're going to start with our white wine, which is a Viognier. Our vineyard produces only Pinot Noir. And we wanted to kind of expand our portfolio a little bit by creating a white wine as well. So we had to outsource our grapes because at some point it would be nice to be able to plant some more rows on here, but the goats have a lot more work to do until that's possible. So we found a vineyard. This was back, so a little bit of history. Our first winemaker was a fellow by the name of Michael Brown. I don't know if anyone's heard of Costa Brown, but they're just a really wonderful, excellent Russian River Pinot. And Michael Brown made our first wine, or our first 3 vintages of wine. And he had really amazing contacts to some of the best other growers. So when we wanted to do a Viognier, he found a vineyard called
Marcia's
Vineyard in nearby in Sebastopol. Is it Sebastopol? Kind of Sebastopol,
yep.
If anyone's familiar with Sonoma County geography. And they bring in these grapes. And every time they come in, Renee does all of our kind of cellar receiving. She's like, these are the ugliest grapes I've ever seen. They're so and they don't look lovely, but the fruit they produce is bar none, I feel like, the best Viognier. And we don't typically enter a lot of wine competitions, but a few years back we entered the San Francisco Chronicle wine competition, and they gave us a double gold for our Viognier and said it was the best California Viognier. But I thought that I got a kick out of this. It was the 3rd best in the country, first being one out of Charlottesville, Virginia, second being one out of Texas. Being a Californian, we're kind of like snobby. We like our California wines, but I was pretty interested. And then I had some folks tasting today, and they were talking about the Viognier they get out of Charlottesville. And I'm like, that must have been the same one, because they produce great Viogniers in Virginia as well. So should we talk? I would love some participation here, and I would love for you all to put your nose in this, like give it a little swill. You want to get the oxygen moving. Like wine is very much alive, and we need air to breathe. This needs air to breathe and open, and so I like to give it a bit of a swill, so the really brings out the best. And
the aromatics can just sit in your glass, and then you get to experience it.
Yeah, and then you kind of put your nose. I'm sure you guys have all tasted wine, but we'll pretend like you haven't. We're going back to like wine tasting 101 here, where you really want to just kind of take a deep breath. And I like to just think of like the very first thing that comes to my mind when I smell this. And my mind is always on candy. Like I smell a green Jolly Rancher when I had in this. What are you all smelling here? Anyone in the comments? Anyone? Let's see. Granny Smith. Yes, Smith. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so another one in the chat from Kathy. What food pairings, cheese, etc., will go well with Viognier as you're sitting in the vineyard? We love Viognier with anything. We love it by itself, but it also does wonderful with chicken, salmon.
Yeah, I kind of like to think of wines like if you're drinking a white wine, it often pairs really well with the white food. Pork, fish, chicken, turkey. And then as you get to the darker wines, the darker meats, like for the Pinots and Cabs, better for lamb and steak. Although I do think Pinot is a perfect bridge, because Pinot is it's kind of like a light red where the flavors meld on both sides of the aisle. But yeah, I like, as I'm sitting in the vineyard, we have all these great vegetables growing. So I think this is great on a salad. It's great with, my favorite cheese, if you want to write this down, it's called Meredith Dairy, and it's out of Australia.
I think
it's either Australia or New Zealand. And it's this marinated feta, goat and sheep's cheese milk feta that comes in these little cubes. And I find it in the cheese section. I found it in Ann Arbor, like Zingerman's carries it, or you find it all over, and it comes in a jar, like with olive oil, and you spread that on a cracker with this. It's just like so killer,
Delicious.
so killer. But we love to eat cheese. We love to eat charcuterie. And I'm not overly I'm definitely not a cheese sommelier. Like, I'm not a person that will say like, oh, these walnut tones will go great with this wine. To me, it's like, I just like wine. Do you like it? Yes, then it's a good wine. Do you not like it? No, then it's not a good wine. And it's also personal, but
I should go get some
sushi. Oh yeah, sushi, like Sally says. I think sushi would be excellent with this. Again, that's like a fish, and I think this holds up really well. Like with a fish taco would be just like an awesome pairing, like to get different kind of textures in with it. Now I'm smelling like maybe some pear and honeysuckle.
Yeah,
I haven't even
it's real-
tasted it yet. Has anyone tasted it yet? It's okay if you have, but I'm still on the
I
smells.
did, and tastes wonderful as always. It's real easy and light on the palate. When we're making this wine, some of the things that make it a little bit different than other wines is that we're making this wine in French oak barrels. Now they're neutral oak barrels, so that means you're not getting any of the oak flavor. But what it does is, as you're tasting this wine, you'll feel that it's a really full white wine. It kind of covers your whole mouth, and that extra chewiness is a product of it being made in oak wine barrels. And so the wine will be in these oak wine barrels before we bottle for about 10 months. And then we release it to our wine club members. We don't make very much of this wine. We roughly make 100, sometimes 125 cases. It really is just a product of what the vineyard is able to give us for that year.
Any questions? And I would love for anyone, if you have a question, just type it in the comments, or if you have an opinion, I would love to hear your opinions. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, we really enjoy this, and we're proud to make it. While we're sipping away, I can just tell you a little bit about the history of Ketcham Estate and how it came to be. And it really, I give my, we wish you were here too, Kathleen. But you ought to come out and visit, and everyone has an open invitation. So my late husband, Mark, dear man, very much like a Renaissance figure, and he was into vintage cars, he was into wine, he was into, at one time, cigars, which I think led to his pulmonary fibrosis. But he was just like this everyman's like kind of I don't know, buddy, like a hail fellow well met, was kind of what he liked to say. And he was choosing between he liked to golf and a vineyard house, and he kind of flipped a coin and wound up getting the vineyard house as opposed to like a Pebble Beach golf place. And we wound up, so he bought this property back in 2000, and it was kind of a second home, and we wound up meeting is the house that he did a massive remodel. I can show you my home here. It is right behind us. So that's the house, and we're and my vineyard manager lives, I'll give you the other shot, in this sweet little home. So they're a wonderful family, and they live on the farm. And then we have the gardens and the whatnot. So Mark bought the property in 2000. We moved in together in 2007 and just started started producing and selling and marketing and all that. I don't know what else about the history.
Well, we talked about Costa Brown. Someone had asked a question: does the Viognier grape take on the characteristics of where it is grown? Most definitely. That's kind of they call it the terroir. Grapes will take on characteristics from the specific vineyards that they're in. And so with the Viognier, Our Viognier it's actually closer to the ocean. It's about maybe a 45-minute drive from the ocean, but as the crows flies, it's probably about maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And so it ripens a lot slower than our Pinot grapes. And it's just a product of kind of the area, the little pocket it's in, where it has the fog and the cooling effect of the ocean. And so those grapes get to sit out and take longer to ripen. And that slowness, I think, is what really helps the Viognier that we get from that specific vineyard have this nice creaminess to it, and a little bit of a chewiness, and
A texture.
and the nice fruit flavors, and that green apple flavor that you get.
And I see, let's see. Oh, Lori. Oh, thank you, Sally, for I'm glad you love this Viognier. And then Lori wants to know, how did we learn to grow and produce the wine? And a lot of it is, for me, I married into it, and it's just been over time. It's been kind of like the lifetime education, and I still don't know nearly anything. But Renee grew up in wine country.
I grew up right here in Healdsburg. I left for long enough to know that I wanted to spend my life having a career here. But I started in wine. I went to college at Sonoma State, which is in wine country, basically. And I've been in the wine industry doing just about everything you can possibly imagine for almost 25 years now. Our winemaker, her name is Tammy Collins, and she and I started together roughly 25 years ago. And it's just kind of a nice way to learn the wine industry. And I still have been doing, I do everything from, I'm out in the fields, like making sure we're all on target for that stuff, to, in the cellar, and I help through the blending process, and then out to even selling the wine. And I swear, it seems like every week I still get to learn something new from someone. And one of the beautiful things about the wine industry is, at least here on the Sonoma County side, is that a lot of us have known each other for years and grown up together. And so when we have an issue with our wines, or like something's perplexing us, or, we're seeing something in the vineyard that we've never seen before, all it takes is a few phone calls, and someone will pop over and help you, or whether it's, moving some wine barrels with a forklift, or, telling you why you're all of a sudden your irrigation lines are having holes in it. Well, it's because the coyotes don't have enough water, and so they're coming in and chewing on your irrigation lines. That was that's what I got to learn a couple weeks ago.
Pesky coyotes. Yeah. And we have as Renee mentioned, a wonderful winemaker. She's another mom like us, and she's been making wines forever, and she has the most exquisite palate and exquisite nose, and we're super, super lucky to have her. And it's a neat team that we've created, just kind of these moms that sit around and share mom stories as we're blending or working in the cellar or whatever it is. But it takes a lot of people, a lot of hours. Wine's not one of those businesses that you should do if you're impatient, because even this wine, the Pinots we're drinking they were harvested 3 years ago. And so you really have to wait and be patient pretty much every step of the way, because it doesn't age overnight. It's all just a matter of slow time.
Do you want to show any of
the slides? Yeah, we could do that. I think, Lori, that might be nice. And go ahead, and you can
unless anyone else has any questions.
Yeah, flip through them, and let's see. I gave her a super big picture file, so it's a little slow on the.
There we go. Just give it 1 second. It should pop up.
There we go.
Ooh. Well, this is the view that we look down upon from the house. You can see a little kid playing in the swings below, and this picture it's really much more full size, but I think it was like we love waking up to this view. It's gorgeous. And
so in the vineyard, the way the vineyard is nestled, the house is up on the hill above the vineyard. It really creates an interesting kind of wind tunnel, and it's created its own little microclimate here. What I've learned over the years of through the last 10 years is it's a little bit predictable in terms of when our grapes are actually ready for harvest. And it really has to do with us being in our own little valley. There's one other vineyard that's in Russian River Valley that also produces Pinot Noir. And I always know when Mr. Bucher is harvesting his grapes, we're just going to be a few days behind. It's like that fun, like, okay.
He's on the other side of the river. He's like
he's
straight across the Russian River from us. So
yeah, he's
similar.
ready to harvest. We're about ready to harvest.
But we're usually amongst the first vineyards to harvest. I'm trying to read these comments here. Let's see.
And one of the things that's been really great for that for us with that the last couple of years is, as we've had a lot of fire pressure here, our grapes are picked and in the cellar before they're in danger of any smoke damage or just getting ruined, basically.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's flip to the next slide. Oh, this is it's called veraison, and it's where the grapes, once they're plump, they're not quite that big yet, and this is probably what, 3 weeks off, something like that.
We're probably we're about 3 or 4 weeks from this is what the next step we'll see in the vineyard here. And this process of veraison, where you're seeing the green and the purple, so that color is just coming through, and really every day those grapes just color up more and more and more.
Yeah, so it's just a really fun, it just looks beautiful. And yes, Abigail, we have been affected by the fires for the past like 5, we evacuate every year. In 19, it came within a mile. So that was horrendously frightening. Yeah, it's just this awful reality of living in Sonoma County now. Typically Pinot is amongst the first of the grapes to be harvested, but so oftentimes our grapes are in, thank goodness, by the time the fires hit. But
last year we did actually end up leaving some grapes on the vine, because as the fires were coming through, we were actually, Allie was in Michigan, I was here, and I told her to stay in Michigan because
like, don't come back.
We were under mandatory evacuations. And so we ended up harvesting with our N95 masks on. And it was the smoke and ash was like raining down. So we basically had to take as many grapes as we could as quickly. I've never harvested as much in one night ever. We did over 30 tons of grapes, just to put it in perspective. So it was like half of our vineyard got picked. And then by the
here's the
harvesting. Sure. So by the time it was time to pick the other part of the vineyard, some of the grapes still weren't ready. So we typically will pick 4 to 5 different times, just really depending on when the grapes are ready. So Peggy had asked if we lost any grapes due to smoke. Yes, so that was the whole vineyard block that we ended up leaving behind because the grapes weren't ready. And then by the time they were ready, you could just the smoke and ash. It was just ashy. And it permeates the grapes. So it was a little unfortunate. But, yeah. And we have a couple of we have some wine that is in the cellar now that the verdict's out. We haven't decided. It's like it might have trace amounts, and it's a little bit of a no one really knows what it's going to do. So we're not sure.
It's too early to tell. Yeah. We were drinking our 2020 Vineyard. Not at the moment. We're drinking 19, right? I don't know what we said. 2020. Oh, so this is the 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are drinking 2020 grapes. These grapes, I'm not sure if they were harvested before or after the fire.
They were harvested after the fire, but the way, again, the wind coming off the Pacific Ocean and where the fires were in 2020 was far enough away from our Viognier grapes. And we also have a cab that we make. So our Viognier grapes were fine, as well as our cab grapes. a vineyard that we historically have purchased Chardonnay grapes from. They didn't harvest anything for the year. They just left everything on the vines because they were just right at the heat and path of the fire. And so they lost all of their Chardonnay grapes.
Tom, we are working so hard at getting our wine sold in Ohio. I've been trying to get this distributor dialed in since before the pandemic. No, it was like 2018 or 2019. It's been a good year and a half that I've been trying to get into Ohio. So if you have any distributor connections, or if anyone knows of a distributor that likes to represent small family-owned wineries, I would love to be in Ohio. I would love to be able to have my wine served at the Granville Inn and on campus, and that would make me so happy. Bill, I went up to Northern Michigan. I love Northern Michigan. I was there last summer and I saw vineyards. I didn't actually go to them. And I think yeah.
I can say that when I was my in-laws have a house on Higgins Lake in Northern Michigan. And when I was there last summer, the neighbors brought over some white wines from a Traverse City winery, and it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little sweeter than most of the wines that we're used to drinking here, but it was definitely impressive. And I feel like it's definitely come a long way from 15 years ago, which was probably the last time I had tasted wine when we were in Michigan.
Yeah. Oh, you're so lucky to be near. I love Glen Arbor. That's the best. You're so lucky.
So beautiful up there.
So lucky. Love that. Who's ready for Pinot? I'm just wondering. Let's see.
Yeah.
If we should. Are you done with your Vineyard? I don't want to rush anyone along, but
And for those of you that don't have wines tonight, feel free to email. Our information's on our website. So you feel free to call or email or text Allie or I, and we'd love to get some of this wine that we're talking about in your hands.
Absolutely.
Too.
So this is what I call like my book club wine, or my Tuesday night at home kind of wine, and I just love that. This is we called our Ketcham Vineyard, and when my husband first moved here, we had it was half planted to Chardonnay and half planted to Pinot, and he wanted it all Pinot, so he mirrored the vineyard. So this is kind of the original side of the vineyard, and it has 5 different clonal types of Pinot, so which I will get into in a moment. But in the very beginning, we produced 2 wines. One we called the Russian River, and that was the side that was closer in the vineyard to the Russian River, and the other side was called the Ketcham Vineyard, and I think that's because it was the original vineyard as opposed to the replanted. And so we had this California Modern and this Old World Burgundian, and those were our 2 Pinots that we offered. We still offer those 2 Pinots, and this is the second one. This is like the one that we would consider a more reserved Pinot, a more Old World Burgundian Pinot. We use our oldest grapes, our oldest vines on property, which are they're 45-year-old roughly Pinot vines, so they're thicker and cragglier. They don't produce a lot of fruit, but the fruit that they do produce is really excellent, and it's more concentrated. And we can do this again where we kind of smell, and leave in the comments what you smell, and get your nose into this one. And to me, this is like my blood. I love this wine. I think it just pairs beautifully with all foods. And with my husband, on my very first date, he poured me a glass of this wine, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the best wine I've ever had. And I want to be modest, but I really think that our Pinot it embodies everything that the Russian River is known for. And I think it's just a perfect example of what a Russian River Pinot should taste like. And I'm not just endorsing myself, but if you're on a menu and you're looking at a wine list, and sometimes it's intimidating looking at a wine list, if you go right to the Russian River Pinot, whatever it is, most likely you will not be disappointed in that wine that you order that evening. So let's see. Yeah, we're going to be in Michigan this summer and would love to go check that out. So check out some Michigan wineries. I'm reading the comments. What's the next slide, Lori?
Hold on 1 second. I'll pull them back up.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments on Pinot? Oh, Lori, I went to high school with Lori. Yes, love her, love her. Okay, funny. And please friend me on Facebook and like Ketcham Estate. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which I don't know that anyone really does much on that one, but I'm pretty active on Facebook, and every Tuesday we do a recipe. And if anyone has a great recipe that they would like to contribute to Tasty Tuesday, I would love it. We're always kind of like looking, all I need is a picture and a recipe, and then we will post it on our board, and it's something we have a lot of fun with.
So this next slide that you're seeing of the vineyard, so this is what our vineyard looks like throughout the winter and early spring. So this is actually wild mustard seed. Wild mustard that blooms here. You'll see it all through the vineyards. After this last year of fires, I can't quite explain what happened, but I have never seen so much mustard in all the fields. But it's really beautiful as you know, early spring's coming around and winter, to see all this pop of mustard everywhere.
And daisies, so like there's mustard and there's daisies, and it provides nitrates or nitrogen for the grapes, so it's another way to just improve the quality of the fruit by improving the quality of the soil.
So, and we do sometimes actually, in some years, so we take soil samples at the end, near the end of harvest, before we're going into the winter months. And so we will go through and look at those soil samples. And if the vineyard's really needing anything added back into it, we sometimes will plant a cover crop every other vineyard row. And if the vineyard doesn't need anything, we just kind of let it go. So this last year it didn't need anything, so we let it go to full mustard seed. It was really nice. And then in usually in March or April, we'll go through, and Roberto or his son Juan, our vineyard manager, and his son, they'll take turns going through and driving the tractor up and down all the vineyard rows, tilling all of the mustard seed back into the earth,
which gives it. And sorry, Richard, we welcome all genders or non-binaries to our vineyard. And we're looking for help, and if anyone's interested in coming out and visiting or being a part of Crush, or kind of checking out what it's like to be on the vineyard, I certainly welcome everyone.
Let's see. And then someone had asked,
how many Pinot Noirs?
Sorry, I feel like we're
kind
so
of
far away. Our old eyes are tired.
I know my squatters. Okay.
So Kathy had asked, how different are the Pinot Noirs? So each of our Pinot Noirs really,
we have 5.
Yeah, and they each embody a different characteristics. We try and keep them in the same wheelhouses every year, and we do that through our blending process, which you'll see a photo of a little bit later in this slideshow. But one of the things that really contribute to the different Pinot Noirs we have is the fact that we have all of these different Pinot Noir clones. And it really, I didn't know I didn't hear you say it about the difference between the clones. It's kind of it's kind of comparable to your different apples that you have in the store. If you get a Granny Green or a Green Smith,
Granny Smith, or a Pink Lady, or whatever.
So they just give you different flavor profiles that you can count on consistently from year to year. And so some of them are more modern. It's a more modern Pinot. Some of them have more oak characteristics. They're a little more sophisticated,
or juicy, or like jammier, sweeter. So our vineyard has these 5 different clonal types, and there's the new ones that were planted after the Chardonnay about 20 years ago, and the old ones, which are much like up to 46 years old. And so each section of grapes has its own characteristics, and then we'll go to blend. And so we have an Allie's Reserve, which is we start with, and so we get to know the personalities of our barrels. We have about 120 barrels in any given harvest, just depending on how many tons of grapes we take in. And they're either brand new oak, or oak we've used once, or what we consider neutral oak that's used more than twice, or 2 or 3 times. And so we put our different clones in the different barrels and then taste each barrel. And in the process of tasting goes on about 18 months, which is the amount of time we cellar our wines before we bottle them. So when it's time to bottle, we have these 120 cases, and it's like having this giant artist palette that we can mix and match and play mad scientist with. But first we have to know each barrel. So we get to know each barrel, and we say, well, maybe this will work for Allie's, or maybe it'll be the Ketcham Vineyard, not sure. And so when it's time to blend, we'll start with Allie's and have 8, I don't know who that is. Random 4-wheeler in the vineyard. We'll have 8 or so barrels that we're narrowing it down to. So the Allie's would be the one that we blend first. And then we'll go on to, we have Nick's Cuvée, which we named after my son, who's like he's a super picky eater, only likes junk food. So when our flavors are really like cola or chocolate or cotton candy or whatever, then that's what we wind up putting into Nick's, and that's only 4 barrels worth. And then that leaves us with the Ketcham Vineyard, which we like to do the more Old World Burgundian in style. And then we call it our 5 clone. And that's kind of the kitchen sink. That's everything that didn't go into the other reserve wines or the Ketcham Vineyard goes into this 5 clone. And it really becomes like a blend, which winds up being a delicious blend, but it's the wine that we make the most of, because it's the barrels that we didn't want to use in other wines.
So if you want to go to the next slide, I think the next slide might be their blend. This is our blending.
Yeah. Oh, here's the process. So each of these little jars represents a barrel, and on them you can see like the little number of the barrel.
So in 1 barrel of wine makes roughly 25 cases of wine. So it's kind of interesting when we can shrink it down to this level and start.
We have a bunch of barrels here. I don't know if you I don't know if the camera's on, but I'm sure you know what a wine barrel looks like, but because I have the opportunity, I might as well show you. And these are just barrels that were used too many times. So now we're going to cut them and turn them into planter boxes, but they're all French barrels. And this is a 14. So we've been using that one since 2014. And the last time it was filled was with a 19 vintage, which we just bottled. And these are just the older barrels that we're gonna give away or use them as tables or what have you. So barrels and the Ketcham Vineyard.
Yeah. So each of those bottles. So if you want to go to the next slide, I believe it should be a picture of Allie, Tammy, and myself in the blending process. So overall, we will end up making the 5 different Pinot blends. And every year, it really kind of just depends. We sometimes will have 3,000 cases worth of wine. Sometimes it will be 3,500 cases of wine. Sometimes it's just a smaller crop, and we might get 1,200 cases of Pinot. So each year is kind of a little different. And if we have a barrel that we really, really do not like, we end up just selling it. So
To answer a couple of questions, the advantages and disadvantages first of the fermentation process. I think larger scale wineries, when they're producing more wines, when they're not, maybe, I feel like we really turn it into a craft, and we're very hands-on. We're very, we don't make a lot of wine, so we want the quality to just be absolutely exceptional. Whereas maybe if a place that's producing 1 million cases or whatever, they'll just put it in a stainless steel tank and add wood chips for flavor. So it's all cost effective, though.
And we do, our winemaking style is very traditional. Although we're not doing natural fermentations, we are adding yeast to kind of push the wine into the direction we need it to go into. But if you check out on our Facebook page, we've been really great at every harvest. We're really pretty good at documenting it. So it's kind of fun if you want to go through our older Facebook posts. You can see some videos of the actual grapes being harvested, them coming into our custom crush facility. And that facility is essentially like a co-op for small wineries like us. So we do all of our winemaking there. They have several other small wine producers as well. And my oldest son actually helped this last harvest. He got to work, he got to be what's called a cellar rat. So he got to actually be in the cellar doing the fermentation.
It's a
Oh, sorry.
And I have a question about wine club. Yes, we do. We do wine club. We do wine club shipment 3 times a year. We're getting ready for a summer shipment, and we ship most states. Massachusetts, we can ship to. Yeah, we ship to Massachusetts. And it's, if you are interested in joining the wine club, you can customize your order based on what you like, or you can take it at our with what we are sending, which is typically our current releases, and then maybe a library wine. And it's a fun way to stay connected. But yes, and so if you loved only Viognier, we'll send you only Viognier. But it is fun to get a kind of plethora of different wines to try. We make a rosé, a Chardonnay, Viognier, 4 or 5 different Pinots depending on the year, and then a Cabernet. Any more questions? Let's see.
Allie, I'm going to post the link to the tasting notes into the chat, and the recipes as well, if you wanted to talk about those.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, these are 2 recipes that I've just created over time, and they're kind of like the best, though I do a lot of entertaining, and it's kind of, these are my go-tos when I'm gonna just have guests coming over for dinner. The chicken paillard, there was a restaurant. Has anyone been to Healdsburg? Like, has anyone traveled to Healdsburg? No.
Yeah, you've got someone there. Yeah.
You were. Oh my goodness, I wish I would have known. Well, we were gone, but very cool. Oh, really? Oh, that's
come visit us.
So I will be there in person.
Welcome anyone and everyone to come visit.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a restaurant called Bistro Ralph, which was like the first restaurant my husband took me on a date to, and they had this, oh gosh, my kids and dog, it's like gonna get chaotic in a moment, but they had this chicken paillard that was just excellent, and it was this thin, you pound out the chicken and then you put it in an egg wash and then bread it with breadcrumbs and fry it in a saute pan, just simple olive oil, both sides, 4 minutes, and then you take that out of the pan and kind of scrape the sauces and add capers and shallots and mustard and cook it down with some apple cider vinegar. And I might be leaving out a few ingredients, but it's like basically the simplest sauce and the simplest chicken, and it just tastes divine. There's something about the acids from the capers and the mustard and the vinegar that with the Pinot, you finish it with butter, of course. You can't forget the butter. So I think that's a great Pinot pairing. And then the corn salad coming into summer, that's just easy, like take some ears of corn, boil them, and then cool them, cut them off the cob. And I keep it real rustic. You know, you don't want every kernel cut off. You want like a thick, you know, like few like rows wide of corn, and put it with avocado, half tomato. Again, I love shallots. Like, I just think they add this delicious flavor to food. And then I do a simple lemon juice and salt, and then you emulsify that with olive oil, like, and pour it over that, and some salt and pepper. And it's just a really delicious, refreshing summer salad.
So we really do extend an offer. If any of you guys do make your way back out to Hillsburg, we would love to have you guys come by. And we don't have our tasting room is open by appointment only. So if you'd like to come see us, you just give Allie or I a text, and we figure out how to make that work. And then someone wants to hear about the Cabernet.
Allison wants to hear about the, or no, not Allison. We read about the Cabernet. Kathy wanted to hear about the Cabernet, and our very first vintage of the Cabernet was a 2018. And we wanted to honor Renee because she's the best. And so we gave her, it just worked out so well too. Like, Mark had wanted to do a Cabernet Sauvignon, and we're like, oh boy, but
Allie and her skills from Denison in the English department, she was clever and came up with the fact that my name being Renee worked great for calling it Cabernet.
Yeah, so that worked out. And Mark wanted he wanted our wines to be all Russian River, but you really can't do a Russian River Cabernet. It just doesn't work. It's too cool, too hot, or whatever. Not hot enough. I don't know, but
it's just too warm.
Too warm.
It's not a long enough growing season to get a good cab grape. So we found some cab grapes from a family called the Saini family. They've been selling grapes to Silver Oak for years, and they've been growing in the Alexander Valley for almost 100 years. They happen to be friends of mine that I grew up with, the Sainis were. And so when we needed grapes, I called them, and they said that they were happy to sell us some grapes. And so the grapes that we use for our cab come from the original block of Silver Oak, Alexander Valley grapes. So it's kind of nice to know that, all those years ago, Silver Oak, they make a great cab, and they get it right every time. So it makes us feel like we're on the same page. So we love it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, our cab's delicious though. It's big. It'll age beautifully for the next 15 years, but it's great if you want to drink it tomorrow. It's just a heavy, rich. Yeah. Well, Peggy, you're in a lot of clubs. You're welcome to join ours if you'd like. It's awesome. I'm glad to see you love your wines. It's really cool. Any other? Let's see. Yeah, come visit us. Any other questions? Oh yes, come up, Susan, please.
So Susan's just in San Rafael, so that's not very far from us.
45 minutes. Yeah.
So, and we do have a little lovely guest cottage as well that's often open for if you want to plan a trip out this way as well.
Exactly. We can hook you up with other small boutique wineries if you're interested in coming out this way and tasting away. Without a cellar, just keep it. My Mark, he laughed because when he met me, I was living in this like little log cabin up on Mount Tam, and I had my wine rack on top of the refrigerator, and he just thought, oh, you're such an idiot, because the three things wine does not like is heat, light, and vibration. So by putting it on top of the refrigerator, you get a little bit of all of that. So if you don't have a wine fridge and want to store your wine, put it in your closet, or just tuck it away where it's a little cooler. We keep so much wine in our garage because we have a cellar, but it's not big enough for the amount that comes in and out. And
the garage is tucked
Cool.
into the side of the hillside, so it stays cool. Ideally, you want to store it,
below 80.
definitely below 80, like 60s and max of like maybe 70s if you can get away with that.
Yeah, but we know it's hard. But yeah, you don't want to keep it in the car. You never, like if you're getting groceries and bought some wine and then want to go to the post office and then somewhere else, take your wine out because it'll cook it in the summer. It doesn't take but 20 minutes to cook a bottle of wine.
So I guess one more thing to mention to everyone too is we do, especially now coming out of COVID, we for many years have done a lot of traveling where we go to country clubs or people's homes and do tastings for them and their friends. And it's been one of our favorite ways
so
to get out
great.
there. We kind of operate on a grassroots effort, and it's really great because we really do get to know all of our people that are purchasing our wines that way. So when Mike in North Carolina calls me, I know exactly who I'm talking to. And it's just something that we enjoy doing. We love getting out and sharing our wines with everyone around. And Allie's up in Michigan for most of the summer. So
I get around
if you're in
too.
the
I mean,
Ohio, anywhere on the East Coast, we like to just travel
Yeah.
the East Coast. And
I'll be in Augusta
Pour
this
wine.
month and Charleston but it's so easy for us to travel. We love to travel, that if you wanted to bring it like a tasting experience to your friends and they're serious wine buyers, we would love to kind of share our wines with your crew. Yeah, I hope you all stay in touch. I'm so grateful to Lori and the team at Denison for inviting me to do this. It truly is like a thrill of my life. I feel like full circle. It's so special. Thank you. And thank you all for joining in. It's really been a wonderful time. Awesome.
Allie, we want to thank you and Renee for being with us tonight and helping us, kick off this virtual reunion, which, in some ways we wish we didn't have to do it virtually, but we're really happy to be together and to be with you, and really just want to thank you for sharing such interesting and personal parts of your lives with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to Allie and Renee, and we hope to see you at other parts of the virtual reunion tonight and tomorrow. Be well and go.
Thank
to
you.
bed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.